The smell hit before the sirens did: burnt plastic, scorched paper, and something chemical that made your throat ache. Chief Liam Halsey didn't flinch. By the time his boots hit the pavement outside Midvale Community College's science wing, the 5th floor was belching black smoke, and terrified students were hanging out of shattered windows, waving shirts and phone flashlights in a desperate attempt to be seen. He wasn't supposed to be first on the scene. But Liam always arrived before the chaos peaked, like his instincts were wired to disaster. He'd been grabbing groceries with his son when the first call came in. He dropped everything, handed his boy off to the bakery clerk he trusted, and floored it to campus. Chemical fire, East Wing, multiple people trapped on upper floors, the dispatcher repeated, voice shaky. Stairwell C has collapsed. The roof could go any second. Liam parked crooked by the quad fountain and was already in his gear when the first engine pulled in behind him. Sirens howled. Students screamed. The wind carried sparks into the trees lining the sidewalk. He radioed in calmly, Chief Halsey taking point. I'm going in. The firefighters around him, rookies and veterans alike, moved when he did. That's what made Liam dangerous. He didn't shout, didn't bark orders. He moved like a soldier in a war he'd already died in once, and everyone followed without question. Inside the building was a mess. Locker doors blown open. Ceiling tiles crashed onto the floor. Alarms wailed like dying animals. The air was thick, a boiling stew of fear and smoke, and the heat melted plastic into gluey puddles beneath his boots. Got eyes on 2, Lab 407. They're coughing hard. Fire's at their back, a rookie's voice crackled. Copy, Liam said. Cover the east hallway. I'll flank from the stairwell. He could have waited. Could have called it in. Could have delegated. But Liam didn't delegate when lives were ticking down by the second. By the time he kicked through the door of 407, flames were peeling paint from the walls. The first body, a teaching assistant, was crumpled behind an overturned table, leg twisted the wrong way. The second, a student, was half-conscious trying to drag the TA across the linoleum with bare, blistered hands. Liam threw his turnout coat around the girl, lifted the assistant in a fireman's carry, and shoved the door open with one shoulder as a burst of heat chased them from behind. Every step down the staircase felt like walking through a furnace. By the time he staggered out through a blown-open fire door into the quad, the press had arrived. Students were live-streaming. Paramedics surrounded him. Someone tried to offer him water. He shook his head. "Help her," he rasped, pointing to the girl as he laid the unconscious T on a stretcher. Now. His helmet was half-melted on one side. His radio buzzed. "Chief Halsey, this is Captain Blake. We've got it from here. You can stand down." The voice slithered in over the comms like oil on water. Liam didn't respond right away. Just stared back at the building, at the fire still pulsing out of the roof, at the crowd filming his every move. Then he turned, locking eyes with one of the new recruits. Set up the aerial ladder. The 5th floor still got movement. "I'm going back in." "Sir?" "You heard me." But even as he marched toward the flames, a knot twisted in his gut. There was something off in Jared Blake's voice. Too calm. Too in control. Liam had known Jared a long time. Trusted him once. But lately? The man had been circling the department like a vulture. And Liam had a sick feeling, one deeper than instinct, that while he was inside risking everything, someone else had already struck the match that would destroy his entire life. And it wasn't the fire behind him. It was the betrayal still waiting at home. Liam Halsey was never the kind of man who believed in second chances. Not in love, anyway. Not after the first time life ripped something pure from his hands. His first wife, Ava, died in childbirth. Complications. Emergency C-section. She never got to hold their son. Liam had held her hand as it went cold, while their newborn wailed under the blue light of a plastic bassinet. He never blamed the baby. Never resented him. But something inside Liam shattered that day, quietly, cleanly, like a plate dropped in water. For 5 years it was just the two of them. Liam raised Caleb like a man carving out his redemption, meal prepping formula between night shifts, strapping a baby monitor to his fire truck's dash when he had no other option. People called him the firehouse widow, half joking. Most men in his position would have drowned in guilt or rage. But Liam buried his grief in order. In duty. In the quiet love only a father could give. Then came Rachel. She was a paramedic in a neighboring county. Sharp eyes, honey-colored voice, and a smile that came too easily. She was good with Caleb, made him laugh with shadow puppets and gave him juice boxes labeled with his name in sparkly Sharpie. She called Liam steel-hearted, and kissed the soft edges of his scars like they were metals. Against every instinct in his body, Liam let her in. They married 2 years after meeting. The firehouse threw them a barbecue. Jared Blake gave the toast, all smiles and arm claps. "You deserve this," Jared said, drink in hand. "You've already walked through hell. About time someone brought you back." At the time, Liam believed him. But the signs were always there, weren't they? Rachel had a habit of showing up at the station on Jared's shifts, not Liam's. Said she was checking in, bringing donuts, laughing too hard at Jared's jokes. Liam noticed it, logged it, but he said nothing. He wanted to believe in calm after the storm. He wanted Caleb to have a mother, even if it meant choking down unease like smoke in his throat. The brotherhood reassured him. "Jared's got your back," they said. "He's the guy you want beside you in a 4-alarm blaze." Liam trusted that once. He trusted Jared when he said he wasn't interested in leadership. "Too much paperwork," Jared laughed. "Let the old lions like you wear the crown." He trusted Rachel when she said Jared was just an easy guy to talk to. He trusted them both, until the shifts began to clash. Jared swapped schedules to avoid Liam's. Rachel grew colder, snappier. Caleb would come home with uneaten lunchboxes and whispered stories of Mommy yelling on the phone when she thought I was asleep. Then came the day Caleb had a fever and Rachel forgot to pick him up from school. She claimed her GPS failed. Liam believed her. But when he drove to her station one night to surprise her with Thai food, Caleb in tow, she wasn't there. The lights were off. Her car is gone. She came home smelling like mint gum and someone else's cologne. Said she'd fallen asleep in the break room. Liam didn't ask questions. Because the truth was starting to curl beneath his walls like a slow-burning fuse. And he wasn't ready to lose again. Not yet. So he let the fire grow. Let the lie stretch until it wrapped around his neck like a noose. And when Jared started getting suspicious promotions, when rumors stirred that Liam's chief title was being quietly reviewed by higher-ups, that's when Liam finally felt it. The slow heat of betrayal. Not the kind that shouts. The kind that waits, like fire behind drywall. Waiting to consume everything you built, when you least expect it. It was supposed to be a normal Sunday. The kind where Caleb built Lego cities in the living room and Liam grilled burgers out back in silence, content to watch his son create universes out of plastic bricks. Rachel had offered to take Caleb to the community pool that day. Bonding time, she called it. "You've been so tense lately, babe. I'll wear him out for you." Liam hesitated. Caleb wasn't a strong swimmer yet, and Rachel wasn't exactly consistent. But she insisted, pressing her lips to Liam's cheek and swearing, "It's just the two of us. I won't take my eyes off him." Liam wanted to believe her. Wanted the illusion of a functional family to last just one more day. So he let them go. He didn't even make it halfway through mowing the lawn before the phone rang. It was the paramedics. Midvale Emergency Dispatch. His son had been pulled from the deep end. Unresponsive. CPR administered poolside. Breathing barely on arrival. Time didn't slow. Shattered. Liam drove like a man possessed. The lawnmower still sat idle in the yard, engine humming. He burst through the ER doors not 10 minutes later and found Caleb curled in a pediatric bed, soaked and pale, with an oxygen mask on his tiny face. Rachel was in the hallway, crying, shaking. Smudged mascara was running down her cheeks. "I just turned away for a second," she sobbed. "Just 1 second." Liam said nothing. Walked right past her like she was part of the drywall. He sat beside Caleb, brushing wet curls from his forehead, whispering his name like a prayer he wasn't sure anyone was listening to. The doctor said Caleb would live. Said he was lucky. That someone noticed the body floating just in time. Liam didn't feel lucky. He felt rage, pure, sterile rage, surging like adrenaline in a backdraft. And still, he said nothing. Not until that night. Rachel tried to explain. Claimed Caleb ran off. Said she was helping another mom apply sunscreen. She didn't hear the splash. Liam's voice was low, lethal. "Who were you texting, Rachel?" She froze. "Because I checked your phone log. And the only number you texted for 45 minutes straight was Jared Blake." Silence. No denial. Just that slow, guilty tremble in her lower lip. And that was all the confirmation Liam needed. He didn't scream. Didn't throw things. He stood up. Took off his wedding ring. Set it on the kitchen counter like it was evidence in a crime scene. Then he walked into Caleb's room and slept beside his son that night, holding his small hand in the dark like it was the only thing anchoring him to this world. Rachel moved out 2 days later. She cried. She begged. She swore it was just texting, and that she would never have let anything happen to Caleb. But she already had. And Liam? He didn't believe in forgiveness when it came to his son. There are lines you don't cross. And she drowned in them. The firehouse heard whispers. Jared Blake never addressed it. Instead, he began volunteering for public-facing ops. Media interviews. Strategic photo ops. More smiles. More handshakes. Like he knew Liam was grieving again, and counted on that grief to make him weak. But Liam wasn't weak. He was calculating. The silent kind of calculating that looks like grief, until it strikes like vengeance. Because Caleb lived. And Rachel's betrayal? It was just the first spark. The firehouse used to feel like home. Now, it reeked of smoke and something worse, politics. Liam could smell it in the stale coffee. Hear it in the awkward silences when he entered a room. The same crew who once toasted beers at his backyard grill now glanced sideways, shifted weight, and lowered their voices when he passed. It started small. His name was mysteriously left off a departmental meeting calendar. One he'd created. A new training protocol was implemented without his review. Someone changed the radio call signs, claimed it was a statewide update, but Liam had contacts across 3 counties. No such update existed. Then came the anonymous complaints. HR called him in. Chief Halsey, just routine procedure, they claimed. A few concerns regarding leadership rigidity, communication breakdowns. He almost laughed. He'd carried bodies out of infernos. Trained half the rookies who now nodded nervously from across the hall. And suddenly he was being questioned like a liability. He didn't say a word. Just nodded, filled out the forms, and walked out with a calmness that unnerved them more than any tantrum would have. Because Liam knew. He knew someone was orchestrating it. And there was only one man with the ego, and the motive, to pull it off. Captain Jared Blake. The golden boy of County Fire District 7. Just transferred into Midvale under the pretense of interdepartmental leadership collaboration. Charming to the press. All-American smile. Favorite of the brass upstairs. And now, Shadow Chief. He played the long game. Befriended rookies. Slipped into the ear of council reps. Made himself visible in tragedies Liam didn't attend. And worst of all, he exploited the fracture Liam couldn't deny, the scandal with Rachel. Word had spread. Rachel's sob story was making rounds, about how Liam had shut her out, how Jared was just a friend, and how Caleb's near drowning was an honest mistake. Jared didn't deny the affair. He didn't need to. He just let the silence stretch, and fed it smiles. But Liam? Liam started digging. He knew better than to fight with fists in a war of shadows. So he went quiet. Calculating. Like smoke crawling between ceiling tiles. He started checking equipment logs. One night, after a long shift, he stayed behind in the records room and pulled the audit reports. Fire extinguishers marked replaced, that never arrived. Budget allocations marked training enhancements, with no accompanying class schedule. And then, bingo. A thermal drone camera purchased under Jared's signature, that had gone missing. 2 weeks later, Jared appeared on the news rescuing a kitten from a 3rd-story window, with drone footage that just so happened to include a clear hero shot. Where'd you get the footage? Liam asked casually over morning coffee. Oh, you know, Jared grinned. These tech guys work fast. It wasn't confirmation. It didn't need to be. Liam started documenting everything. Quietly. Patiently. Like watching smoke stains grow on a white ceiling, knowing the fire's already started in the walls. And then came the kicker. A memo leaked to him, an internal suggestion that fire chief tenure be capped at 10 years. Liam had been chief for 9. The memo wasn't signed. But the phrasing? Sounded like Jared. Too smooth. Too polished. Laced with faux humility and for the betterment of the department lingo. That night, Liam stood alone in the garage bay, staring at the fire engine he'd once driven into a burning nursing home to save 4 grandmothers and a dog. He whispered to himself, "You want my chair, Jared? You're going to have to burn for it." The ceiling might have looked intact. But Liam was already setting the traps. And this time there'd be no alarms to warn them. Just flames. Something is terrifying about a man who smiles while plotting your execution. Liam Halsey wasn't smiling. But he was planning, and that made him infinitely more dangerous. He had no interest in fighting Jared in the open. The department was too loyal to the myth of him. The public was too enamored with his photo-ready heroics. So Liam chose a battlefield Jared couldn't control. Time. Information. Subtle sabotage. First he baited the golden boy. He invited Jared to join him on a non-critical rescue drill at a condemned warehouse just outside Midvale, a drill that had been postponed weeks ago due to resource issues. Liam quietly reactivated it. No witnesses. No cameras. Just a training exercise logged as private departmental review. He told Jared the chief's board wanted to see him in leadership action. "You've got the media polish," Liam said over coffee, voice casual, "but they want to see how you command under stress without a crowd." Jared's ego practically kissed his own reflection. "Of course," he smirked. "Appreciate you looking out for me, brother." Liam nodded. He made sure the drill setup had minor, but critical, flaws. A miswired entry door that wouldn't open without brute force. A false thermal signature was planted using an old firefighter dummy in a storage closet. And just to spice things up, a modified oxygen line that would trigger a false pressure warning if not checked manually. Liam let Jared lead the drill. The result? An embarrassing cluster ****. Jared failed to secure ventilation. Sent 2 rookies into a hot zone without checking thermal reverb. Radioed the dummy's location as a live victim, and nearly sent backup to an empty room. All recorded on internal training cam. The footage didn't go viral, it wasn't meant to. It was quietly sent to the chief's evaluation committee. Liam never signed his name. But he knew the right inboxes. Knew the timestamps. Knew how to make a golden boy look like fool's gold, just tarnished enough to plant seeds of doubt. Next, Liam turned his focus to the Brotherhood itself. He approached Marcus Trian, a seasoned paramedic with 17 years in the field and a grudge against Jared that went back to a denied promotion. "You didn't hear this from me," Liam said, voice low, "but someone's been signing off on expired equipment logs." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "You saying I've been risking lives on faulty kits?" "I'm saying check the dates yourself." Marcus did. Then he told 2 others. By the end of the week, 3 separate complaints had trickled into internal review. None of them was named Jared. But all of them pointed at his administrative oversight. Liam was just laying kindling. And then came the gasoline. He pulled footage from the engine bay's security cam, dated 3 months ago. Jared arriving after hours. Rachel in his passenger seat. They didn't kiss. Nothing overt. But her hand lingered on his thigh just a second too long. It was the kind of image that told a whole story in silence. He saved it. Not for revenge. For precision. Finally, he approached his most delicate target. Councilwoman Diane Morton. She'd always liked Liam, found him stoic, reliable, the kind of leader the city respects. But Jared had been courting her favor hard. So Liam offered her something Jared never could: fear. "I think there's corruption in our department," he said plainly. "Misused funds. Risky gear approvals. Someone's grooming the media. And if this goes public, the city council will burn with it." Diane paled. "Are you accusing Captain Blake?" "I'm not accusing anyone. Yet. But if something does happen, if someone dies because of this, I want it on record that I tried to stop it." She nodded. Slowly. Carefully. Now Liam had his fire line. He wasn't shouting. He wasn't charging in. He was waiting, silent, cold and coiled. Like a match, untouched. Just waiting for friction. Rachel thought the worst was behind her. She was wrong. After the hospital, after the half-hearted apology and rushed move-out, she assumed Liam would cool down. That he'd forgive her, eventually. He always had that quiet, tortured softness when it came to Caleb. She believed that was her leverage. But Liam Halsey had buried that softness in concrete. And Rachel was about to learn what a silent man with nothing to lose was truly capable of. It started with a court summons. Custody review. Filed by Liam. Citing endangerment. Negligence. Emotional instability. Rachel laughed at first. He wouldn't dare. But then she showed up to court and realized he absolutely had. And he'd come armed. Liam's lawyer, a woman named Daria Voss, nicknamed the Guillotine in family court circles, presented a portfolio so thick it required a wheeled cart. Incident reports. Phone logs. Photos of Caleb's medical bracelet from the ER. Security footage from the pool shows Rachel laughing into her phone while Caleb floats face down in the deep end. Time-stamped. Verified. Rachel's face drained as the footage played. The courtroom was silent, except for the sound of splashing water and her laugh echoing from the speakers. The judge raised an eyebrow. Is that the defendant on her phone during the incident? Rachel opened her mouth. Closed it. Shook her head too late. Then came the witness statements. 3 poolgoers. 1 lifeguard. Even the clerk from the bakery who watched Caleb often while Liam was on duty. Each one painted the same picture. A mother too distracted, too self-absorbed, too quick to hand Caleb off when things got inconvenient. But it was the voice recording that gutted her. A clip from a phone call, Rachel speaking to a friend, unaware it was synced to a cloud account Liam still had access to. Honestly, it's not like the kid died. Everyone's acting like I killed him or something. He's just a little dramatic. The courtroom murmured. Caleb, seated with a child advocate in the corner, stared down at his shoes. Rachel burst into tears. That was taken out of context. But it didn't matter. The damage was done. The judge ruled in Liam's favor. Full custody. Immediate revocation of joint decision rights. Rachel was granted supervised visitation bi-weekly, only with court-appointed observers present. She begged Liam outside the courthouse. "Please," she whispered, mascara bleeding down her cheeks. "Don't do this. I'm still his mother." Liam's stare was cold steel. "You're a stranger who almost killed my son while you were screwing my colleague. No one even saw us." "I did." He leaned in closer, his voice a quiet knife. "And I'll make sure every person who ever trusted you sees it too." The next day, the footage of Rachel and Jared in the firehouse parking lot leaked. Subtle. Blurry. But damning. Then came the firehouse whispers, louder now. "Wasn't she married to Liam? That's Blake's girl now, huh? Caleb almost died on her watch." Rachel's job as a paramedic started feeling cold. Isolated. People stopped riding in the same ambulance. Her calls were reassigned. Nurses snickered behind clipboards. She was passed over for rotation schedules, then put on leave, pending mental health evaluation. She spiraled. Tried calling Jared. He didn't answer. He didn't need her anymore. She was already burning, and Jared never ran into a fire unless there was a camera waiting on the other side. Rachel finally realized the truth. She was never a partner. She was bait. And now, she was ash. No rescue. No ladder. No hands reaching down. Just smoke curling upward while Liam walked away, hand in Caleb's, without looking back. Jared Blake loved a headline. He read news clippings like scripture. Saved screenshots of his media interviews in a folder labeled Legacy. He even had a Google alert set up for his own name. So when a 3-alarm fire broke out at the Midvale Industrial Supply Warehouse, Jared saw opportunity. "Let me lead it," he told Dispatch. "I've got a drone team ready. We'll run perimeter footage, save the day, make the department look like gods." Liam reluctantly approved it. What Jared didn't know was that Liam had quietly coordinated the entire drill, with internal affairs watching. The warehouse had been red flagged for months. A staging site for outdated equipment and training dummies. No one was ever in danger. But the dispatch call? The camera crew? Jared's hero stunt? All real enough to bait him. When Jared arrived, he took control immediately, dishing orders, barking bravado, shirt soaked dramatically under his turnout coat. He was already mic'd up before he crossed the threshold. The drone hovered perfectly behind him, catching every angle. Liam watched from the command van. He didn't speak. He didn't smile. He simply hit record as Jared made mistake, after mistake, after mistake. First, Jared waved off thermal scans, claiming he knew the layout and didn't need the maps. Second, he sent 2 rookies into a zone marked as unstable, chasing a false positive heat reading. One Liam had planted using a space heater wrapped in aluminum blankets. Then came the crowning jewel. Jared entered the back corridor for a heroic solo sweep, while instructing his drone team to follow. But instead of rescue footage, the drone recorded Jared staging debris. He knocked over a charred beam, dragged a fake victim prop halfway through a door, splashed water on his face for effect, all while murmuring to himself, "This'll look great in post." The footage captured every frame, every lie. And waiting in the shadows? 2 IA officers, 1 council rep, and Liam, arms folded. When Jared emerged, sweaty, triumphant, cocky as hell, Liam greeted him with a slow clap. "Hell of a performance," he said. Jared blinked. "Thanks, Chief. Got a few close calls, but..." "Oh, we got it all," Liam nodded. "Every single frame." Jared looked past him and froze. IA agents. City auditors. Councilwoman Morton, lips pressed in disapproval. "What is this?" he barked. "Accountability," Liam said. The aftermath was immediate. Footage went straight to the Oversight Committee. Jared was suspended pending review. Equipment logs tied to his name were pulled. The firehouse door that once opened with admiration now slammed shut in his face. But Liam wasn't done. He released a second video. Not to the public. just to a curated list of internal staff, council members, and neighboring station captains. It was Jared on a hot mic months earlier, boasting in the locker room. Liam's soft. He's clinging to that chief title like a ghost. I give it 6 months, he'll retire or the board will ease him out. Either way, I'll be in that seat before Christmas. The silence in the firehouse the next day was thunderous. The brotherhood turned cold. Even the rookies who once idolized Jared now walked past him like he was smoke nobody wanted to inhale. Rachel tried texting him again. This time the message bounced. Number disconnected. When Jared showed up at Liam's office the next week, he wasn't wearing his turnout gear. Just civvies. Pal. Shaken. You set me up, he whispered. No, Liam replied. You set yourself up. I just made sure the right people were watching. You think this makes you a hero? No, Liam said. I stopped being a hero when my son almost died because of you. Now, I'm just cleaning house. Jared stared at him jaw tight. Don't bother threatening me, Liam added. Your career's already in ashes. All that's left is deciding whether you go down alone, or take your little corruption ring with you. That's when Jared realized something terrifying. Liam wasn't angry anymore. He was finished. And when a man like that is finished with you, you're already burned. The brotherhood was supposed to be sacred. A bond forged in fire, sweat, and split-second decisions. A loyalty deeper than blood. But Liam had learned the truth. That even a firehouse can rot from the inside, if you trust the wrong men to hold the hose. After Jared's suspension, the air inside Midvale Station turned thick with tension. Nobody laughed in the break room. Nobody shared playlists or told dumb jokes during overnight shifts. Everyone moved quietly, watching, waiting. Because Liam hadn't just taken Jared down. He'd cracked the wall and let the smoke pour in. And smoke makes people cough out secrets. Within a week, 3 anonymous reports landed on the city inspector's desk. One involved rigged inspections, safety checks signed off on gear that had never been tested. Another detailed kickback from a contractor who overcharged the department for flame-resistant gear, and always seemed to win the bids when Jared was the project lead. But the third? The third was nuclear. A rookie's resignation letter, attached to a signed affidavit, stating he had been ordered by Jared to falsify a call log during a 4-alarm fire. That falsification had led to a delay in backup, and nearly cost a civilian their life. The IA team moved fast. Liam handed over his evidence quietly. No drama. No press. But word spread anyway. Stations across the county started digging through their logs. Jared had transferred through 3 departments in the past decade. At each stop, he'd left behind minor confusion, equipment errors, and a trail of missing files. Liam stood at the center of the storm. Not gloating. Not victorious. Just resolved. He didn't speak to the press. Didn't leak the audio files. Didn't tweet cryptic quotes about betrayal. He simply showed up for every shift. Worked the calls. Cleaned his gear. Took Caleb to school on time. And waited. Because he knew the department wasn't done turning on itself. And he was right. It started with the engineers. Then the gear managers. Then a captain from Station 4 who suddenly retired for personal reasons after 19 years. It wasn't just about Jared anymore. It was about the house they'd all sworn to keep clean, and how filthy it had become. Councilwoman Morton called Liam in for a private meeting. "Chief," she said carefully, "this is bigger than one bad officer. I know. You're about to shake the foundation of this city's emergency response system. Then maybe it needed shaking." She folded her hands. "Are you prepared to lead it if it falls?" Liam didn't hesitate. Yes. And that's when he got it. The green light. Council authority to launch a full internal restructure. Firehouse by firehouse. Every captain. Every inspector. Every contractor. No more unspoken codes. No more backroom deals. No more Jareds. He started with the personnel files. Quietly reviewed every recommendation Jared had ever submitted. Cross-referenced incident reports. Followed the threats. A pattern emerged. Jared hadn't just been a parasite. He'd been the head of a network of favors, blackmail, and silent coercion. Promotions exchanged for silence. Night shifts traded for bribes. Suspensions are buried for future votes. Liam compiled it all. And then, he dropped it, in person, on the desk of the regional fire commissioner. A full 78-page report, titled, Integrity Review, Midvale and Affiliate Stations. Signed, Chief Liam Halsey. By the end of that week, 2 more officers were under review. 3 contractors were blacklisted. and 6 staff members had requested voluntary transfers to avoid deeper scrutiny. The Brotherhood? Fractured. The loyal ones stood by Liam, tired, bruised, but relieved that someone finally lit a match under the rot. The cowards? They packed up their lockers and left before sunrise. Liam watched them go from his office window. No emotion. No satisfaction. Just clarity. Because fire doesn't just destroy. It purifies. And sometimes, to rebuild something worth believing in, you have to let it all burn first. It was supposed to be routine. A scheduled inspection from the State Fire Commissioner. A formality before Liam's permanent appointment as Midvale's full-term fire chief. But Liam had been doing this too long to believe in coincidences. The inspection date was pushed forward. Suddenly, the route changed at the last minute to include the old maintenance wing, Jared's old turf. And the night before the visit? An anonymous tip was sent to the local news. Midvale Fire Department chief covering up expired oxygen tanks and falsified safety drills. Lives at risk. It hit social media at dawn. The whispers began before Liam even stepped into the garage. You think they're gonna suspend him? The whole place could go under if this is true. Jared always said Liam was hiding something. Liam didn't panic. He adjusted his cuffs, tied his boots, and walked straight into the fire. The commissioner arrived with a full entourage, 2 aides, a press liaison, and 3 camera crews embedded for transparency. Liam greeted them with perfect calm. Welcome to Midvale, sir. You'll find we've cleaned house. The commissioner nodded, but his eyes were already scanning the perimeter like a bloodhound. They started the walkthrough. The hoses were in place. The truck engines are spotless. The gear lockers glinted under the fluorescent lights. Liam narrated every detail like a museum curator, but his eyes stayed sharp. Waiting. Then came the final stop, the storage wing. The only building Liam hadn't touched. It was locked. Sealed. Why hasn't this been inspected? The commissioner asked. Liam paused, then handed him a second set of keys. Because I was waiting for you to open it. Inside. Chaos. Deliberately staged chaos. Expired tanks. Moldy turnout gear. Fake inspection tags. Faulty smoke alarms set to pass mode. The cameras blinked red. The commissioner's face darkened. You're saying you left this untouched? Liam nodded. Because I wanted to show you exactly what Jared Blake built before he tried to burn me with it. He handed over a folder. Surveillance footage from a hidden camera, installed 3 weeks ago. It showed Jared, 2 nights prior, sneaking in with 2 former station techs and planting the very evidence now sitting in front of them. One man held up the cracked oxygen tank. The other forged a date label. Jared whispered, "This'll finish him. Make sure the seals look broken, just enough to raise flags." The footage cut out. Enough to damn him. Too clean to deny. The commissioner flipped the folder closed. Why didn't you remove it sooner? Because the only thing more dangerous than a corrupt firefighter, Liam met his eyes steel hard, is one who thinks the city will never catch him. Silence. Then applause, slow, sarcastic, deliberate. From behind them, Jared emerged from the hallway, escorted by 2 union reps. You went all in, huh? He smirked. Hope you enjoyed the show. The commissioner turned to him coldly. Captain Blake, you are hereby under review for tampering with state property, conspiracy to defame a city official, and reckless endangerment of public safety. Jared's smile faltered. You can't prove intent. Oh, we don't have to, Liam said. Intent was never your strength. Sloppiness was. A second envelope appeared, cell tower pings. Jared's phone GPS placed him at the scene. One of his co-conspirators had already flipped. Testimony signed, dated, and leaked, deliberately, to the local news before the inspection. By noon the headline read, Fallen Captain Caught in Setup Attempt Against Fire Chief. Corruption Ring Exposed. By 5 o'clock, Jared was escorted off city property in handcuffs. Rachel tried to visit him in the holding. He refused to see her. And Liam? He stood in front of the commissioner and extended his hand. Midvale deserves a chief it can trust, he said. Someone who won't let shadows grow behind the badge. The commissioner nodded. Effective immediately, the badge is yours. Liam didn't smile. He didn't need to. The fire was over. Now came the rebuilding. The house was quiet again. Not the aching silence of grief, but the stillness that follows a storm finally spent. Liam Halsey stood at the stove, flipping pancakes one-handed while Caleb colored at the kitchen island. The boy was humming, something tuneless and light, the kind of noise only children could make without apology. And Liam smiled. It had taken everything to get here. Every ounce of control. Every patient, vengeful breath. Jared Blake had been officially terminated. Disgraced. Blacklisted from every firehouse in the state. The city council had issued a formal apology for a lapse in oversight and internal failure to detect malicious intent. Bureaucraties for we were asleep at the wheel. Rachel? Gone. Last anyone heard, she'd moved 3 counties over. Changed her last name. Filed a restraining order against a world that no longer saw her as a victim. She'd left no forwarding address for Caleb. And Caleb? He didn't ask about her anymore. Instead he asked about engines. About rescue drills. About the names of every firefighter in Liam's squad. His school project was a cardboard firehouse with a cutout of Liam at the front, labeled Real Hero in sparkly green glue. Dad? Caleb asked, flipping his crayon. Are bad guys always firefighters too? Liam paused mid-pour. No, he said quietly. But sometimes, even heroes forget who they are. Caleb nodded. You didn't. And Liam had to turn away for a second, blinking hard. Because for everything he'd endured, the betrayal, the lies, the slow rot from the inside out, that single sentence was the only thing that had ever truly mattered. The firehouse had changed. The new recruits no longer treated their gear like props. The veterans walked straighter. The jokes were warmer now, fewer barbs, more brotherhood. The corruption was gutted, the morale rebuilt. Liam's office door was no longer a tomb. It was open. He didn't speak of Jared. Didn't need to. Because Jared had become a cautionary tale. A whispered warning passed through academy halls and locker rooms alike. Don't mistake ambition for honor. Or you'll end up like Blake. Liam didn't need a medal. He had a son who still trusted him. A crew who stood behind him. And a badge that meant something again. One night, weeks later, he stood alone on the training field. Full moon. Cold wind. A final burn pile of outdated gear smoldered in the corner, the last remnants of Jared's legacy reduced to smoke and ash. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out something small. His old wedding ring. The one he'd left on the kitchen counter the night Rachel betrayed him. He stared at it for a long time, then tossed it into the flames. The gold hissed once, then disappeared. No ceremony. No final words. Just release. A soft voice broke the silence behind him. You okay, Chief? It was Marcus Trian, the old paramedic. Trusted. Loyal. Weathered by fire. Liam turned. Nodded. Yeah, he said. Think I finally am. Marcus handed him a file. New candidate for captain. Thought you'd want to see it. Liam took it. But before opening it he looked back at the smoke. At the empty field. At the scars that would never quite fade from this ground. And he exhaled. Not in pain. In peace. Because for the first time in years, the fire wasn't behind him. Or in front of him. It was gone. And what remained was a man who had walked through hell. And come out cleaner than the ones who pushed him into it. Years later, the story of Chief Liam Halsey still passed through Midvale like a whispered campfire tale. Less legend, more warning. Recruits walked past the memorial plaque at the firehouse entrance and paused to read it. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was honest. What we build with trust, we protect with fire. Chief Halsey. They'd heard the story, how the chief who never smiled tore down a network of corruption with nothing but patience and truth. How he survived betrayal not once but twice, and still kept the line steady for the rest of them. The rookies called him the last quiet man. Not out of pity. Out of respect. Because Liam never needed to scream to be heard. He didn't take revenge out of pettiness. He took it because no one else would. He didn't protect the firehouse to save his job. He did it to make sure no other child watched a hero fall from grace. They said you could still see him some nights, pacing the engine bay after hours, running drills with the same calm precision as if the walls had never cracked around him. But if you looked closely, something had changed. He laughed more. Not much, but enough that Caleb noticed. Enough that the men who once tiptoed around his silence now lingered in the warmth of his presence. And sometimes, just sometimes, he'd host pancake Sundays again. Just him, Caleb, and a handful of rookies who never knew the fire that nearly consumed them all. He never spoke of Rachel. Never mentioned Jared. But he did teach one lesson in every briefing, every training, every final handshake before someone earned their badge. Don't mistake the silence of a good man for surrender. It's not silence. It's warning. Because the fire doesn't always roar. Sometimes it waits, and when it finally burns, it purifies everything.